Good morning, viewer. Welcome to our Fosak TV USA. Here's the breaking news. Rashtrapati Bhavan, a suitable house for a suitable Swami. The process of finding a new incumbent for Rashtrapati Bhavan has already kicked in. As head of the Republic, the President is deemed to be the embodiment of national sovereignty. He or she personifies national dignity and ceremonial grace. It is not an inconsequential office. The very nature of electoral college gives the president a certain kind of legitimacy and a definite constitutional status. Therefore, the next president has to again be a substantial persona who should inspire a modicum of respect and deference across partition line. Since the election of the first president in 1952, it is the ruling party that has always covered the requisite numbers behind its nominee. In effect, this means that it is the Prime Minister who gets to decide who the next president will be. Except Rajendra Prasad in 1952, India has not had a president who could be said to have naturally elected herself to office. When in 1969, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi felt that rivals in the party were trying to foist an unhelpful president on her. She dug her heels in and ensured that the party boss's mischief did not take off. In 2007, Bhairav Singh Shekhawat, as incumbent vice president, thought he was naturally owed the presidency and tried to crowbar his way in Rashtrapati Bhavan. Not surprisingly, he felt no Prime Minister will allow an unfriendly president. And that is indeed how it should be, because under our parliamentary system of government, Rashtrapati Bhavan cannot be a site of rival authority. It should certainly not be available to anyone out to intrigue against a Prime Minister, especially not one who commands the confidence of the majority in the Lok Sabha. The president comes into play when the ruling party's majority becomes doubtful or the Prime Minister himself or herself appears to have lost the confidence of his or her own party. And that is the time when the Republic needs a wise and prudent president, not someone who will get ensnared in the politician pretty intrigues. So also in 2022, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his so-called co-Sa and Sa will try their very best to install president of their choice. The opposition, assuming it can come together and agree on one candidate, will be entitled to rustle up a majority behind its nominee. A contest for the office of the president can become a fierce political clash. If the Prime Minister fails to ensure the victory of his presidential candidate, the political equilibrium will get drastically altered to Modi's disadvantage. Likewise, if the Prime Minister can get his nominee through, his own unchallenged leadership in the party will get further secure. Given the matrix of the calculation equation, a second term for the incumbent, Ramnath Kovind, would be unprecedented. He has proven himself to be a very accommodating and indeed a very convenient president for the Prime Minister. But the very docility that makes an incumbent a seductive option is also fraught with danger. With a second term under his belt, no president can be trusted to enjoy being a glorified cipher. The worm can turn, and that is a prospect not to be easily cherished by any Prime Minister. Governor Anandaben Patel's name is doing the rounds, and it's a name that recommends itself in many ways. She is probably the most trusted colleagues and comrade in arms Modi has had in his very difficult journey. A woman president makes a good sales pitch for a peer conscious PM. However, the idea of the president, the prime minister, and the all-powerful home minister being from the same state, Gujarat, may not be very palatable to very many among Modi's own crowd. Arif Muhammad Khan may be a good choice for Modi based on a APJ Abdul Kalam type calculus. However, two drawbacks present themselves. Though for now Khan has been meticulously correct in terms of deference and submission to the high command, his political track suggests a man of certain honor and self-respect whom no one can make the mistake of taking for granted. Second, his elevation from the Trivandrum Raj Bhavan to the Rashtrapati Bhavan would violently disconcert Modi's Nupur Sharma constituency. Those animated by a righteous and arrogant state of mind which refuse to concede the need for any kind of accommodation and voice for Muslims, however obsequious and obedient. As for a Adivasi or a North-Eastern nominee, that would perhaps be an easy in political correctness, but then the Prime Minister no longer needs to kowtow to Khan market sentiment. He has now elevated himself to a higher level of political nirvana. What Naya Bharat needs is someone who is a fellow traveler, someone who is not ideologically hostile to Modi, but also someone who will not be personally averred by him or any other incumbent, a president who can make the Prime Minister sit down and tell him a thing or two, someone who can be relied upon to know the limits as well as the essence of his office, someone like Subramaniam Swami. We knew he is more genuinely committed to the Hindu causes than most of the vociferous drum beaters of the Hindutva manufactured by the BJP's spin machine. He would be eminently acceptable to the most radical of the Hindutva fringe elements. At the same time, Swami is an extravagantly intelligent man, a man of learning yet not unfamiliar with the politician ways of intrigue and machination. He will make an ideal counselor to the Prime Minister, even though of late he has been critical of the Modi crowd, but that this precisely the kind of friendly criticism that the Prime Minister needs and deserves. Beyond the report for Shakti USA.